Good afternoon from sunny Crete. 2 days left here until we fly back to the UK. Another update for you from the Newcastle Alexander Isak saga. So Isak reported back to training today, Monday morning. Apparently he was there for about 3 hours training by himself. The rest of the squad had the day off because they landed from Asia this morning. So they've got the day off, no training for them today. Alexander Isak at the training ground by himself, training for about 3 hours. Apparently he had a bit of work done on his thigh and then left. Something else which came out today was Howe speaking about the topic. He basically said players have to earn the right even to train for Newcastle, not to play, even just to train at Newcastle, which I think is 100% right. Howe being very firm, being very honest, as he always does, but not really throwing Alexander Isak under the bus, as you were. I think he could have been a little bit more stronger with his words. I know Alan Shearer has come out today and said that we should basically get Alexander Isak out of the club. If he doesn't want to be there, we should move on, get another striker in his place, hopefully before we sell Isak. But yeah, that's someone who's obviously my hero growing up, an absolute Newcastle legend. Alan Shearer saying that we should move on from Isak. If he doesn't want to be there, we should get out the club, we should cash in for him and get the replacement. That replacement is possibly still going to be Benjamin Sesko. There's been talk today of Gonzalo Ramos, the Portuguese striker who's at PSG. Not really first choice, seems to come on very late in games. He's been in Newcastle's radar for a couple of years already. I personally think he would be a good option if he was the starting centre forward. I think more game time would see him do much better. He was obviously fantastic at Benfica, which is where PSG bought him from. But that's going to be another very hefty fee. Not as young as Sesko either, but possibly a good alternative as well. I know a couple of people are speaking about Ollie Watkins as well. I think him being a number one striker, I can't see that being an improvement on Alexander Isak. So yeah, a bit going on in terms of the Isak saga. Training today alone by himself. Again, no formal news. I know Man United have stepped up their interest in Benjamin Sesko. We knew that they were in informal discussions with Leipzig over the 6'5" Slovenian striker. Again, this is a bit of a toss-up. If he does go to Man United, who are not in the Champions League this season, then I think that's a bit of a bullet dodged, in my opinion. We want players who want to be here. We don't want players who are going to be haggling over another 10k or who have their heart set on playing at other clubs. I think we should look at players who are desperate to make a name for themselves. We're desperate to get involved in falling in love with what Newcastle represent. We're a club on the up. We've got Champions League football to offer people. We've got a manager who has a reputation of improving every single player that he works with. Look at Joe Linton, look at Isak, look at Anthony Gordon, look at Murphy on the wing, even Dan Byrne at centre half, who's got into the England squad as well. So that's the kind of player that we want to attract to the club, a player that looks to improve. Sesko fits that bill. I personally don't think that the whole Isak moving to Liverpool thing is 100% a done deal. I still think there's a small opportunity or a chance that Isak could be lining up for us in that first game of the season against Villa. It's a little bit awkward for him at the moment. He technically went on strike, saying he wanted to explore his options. I think we need to look at the facts and say and realize that Isak has never publicly come out and said, I want to join Liverpool. Let's be honest with each other. There's probably been discussions between his agents and the Liverpool camp about a move, but nothing formally from the player saying that he wants to move. I know that he didn't go on tour with the rest of the team, obviously to Asia, which says a lot in terms of him not being part of the pre-season for Newcastle, and that is very poor in my opinion. I mean, he is our talisman, he is our star player, and to not have him on that plane in Asia for the pre-season matches is really, really poor. And I think there's a little bit of tug of war going on at the moment between Isak pushing or exploring his options is the word that we heard, versus Newcastle saying, well, hold on, we hold the cards here, we've got you on a contract for the next 3 years, you are well paid. I think the door is open for a contract extension, possibly. We've seen that happen before where players do get another year added on their contract, a bit more extra money for him, and then they go the next season in the next summer. From Isak's perspective, as I said, what is there really to do? Really more to achieve at Newcastle. He's got us in the Champions League. We've won the first trophy in over 70 years. What more can he really achieve at Newcastle? That's probably what he's thinking. Financially, yes, he can earn more money elsewhere, but don't be surprised, knowing Eddie Howe and the man manager that he is. Look at what happened with Anthony Gordon last year when there was talk about him going to Liverpool as well, and how it took a couple of games eventually to turn around, and then eventually we saw the old Anthony Gordon that we're used to bombing down that left wing. So I wouldn't completely write off Alexander Isak staying at Newcastle and then us targeting a number 2 striker to replace Callum Wilson, who did not renew his pay-as-you-play contract at Newcastle. He's obviously signed for West Ham on a free, and hopefully, well, for his sake, he can stay injury-free and do some good work for the Hammers. But yes, I don't think that's completely a signed and sealed deal that Isak is gone. I think tomorrow is going to be an interesting day when he plays, when he starts to train with the rest of the players. We've got the Seller Cup on the weekend, where he may feature. I think if he features in any of those games, I think the likelihood of him staying at Newcastle increases significantly. If he doesn't feature in any of those games, then I think he's gone. He's basically gone. But tomorrow will be an interesting day. He's back face to face with the rest of the players that he didn't go on tour with, the rest of the players that he didn't train with, the rest of the players that he didn't sign signatures and do interviews and do all the kind of marketing, which is the primary reason, let's be honest, why we went over to Asia in the first place without our star striker. So he's going to be face to face with the rest of the players. If we see pictures of him laughing and joking and smiling, then I think there's possibly an opportunity where his head may have been turned slightly, just exploring his options. But there is obviously a small opportunity that he could stay at Newcastle. So let's see what tomorrow brings. Yeah, another interesting day of news on the Newcastle front. If you think that Newcastle could keep Alexander Isak, or do you still want him to be at Newcastle, let me know. Personally, I'm finding it very difficult even to look at photos of him. Even just to look at his face really hurts at the moment. That's probably because we love him so much. Let's be honest with each other. We've loved the guy. He's been an absolute idol for us over the last 2 years in particular. And this does hurt, the fact that our star striker, our Swedish Alexander the Great, has had his head turned and possibly looking elsewhere other than at us, Newcastle United fans. So I'm finding it really hard at the moment, but I'm still clinging onto that opportunity or the possibility that he might stay. Mark my words, there's a possibility he might stay. So let's see, what do you think? Do you think, would you even want him to stay? Would you want him to renew his contract, get an extra couple of tens of thousands of pounds per week? Would you be open to that? Can you still mend that bridge with him? Personally, I think yes. Why not? You know, it's happened at other clubs. Anthony Gordon had the same last year. So what do you think? Do you think he's gone? Do you think he's out the door? Would you like to see somebody else? Would you like to cash in and then use that money to keep our PSR balance sheet healthy over the next couple of years? Or do you want to see him and Eddie Howe back on board with the rest of his teammates, leading the line for Newcastle this season? Let me know what you think, and don't forget,